Hey everybody, how you doing? It's Trent Austin from Austin Custom Brass. Thought I'd do a live chat here on YouTube. Hope you all are doing well. Let me know where you're from, what's going on. And today is more of a question and answer session for all of you. Hopefully have some questions about some of our mini lessons that we've been doing. And just chime in and say hello. So hope you all are doing fantastically well. I'm going to turn this light up just a little bit to give us a little bit more light. Perfect. Oh, that's maybe a little too much. There we go. And we're going to play. So let me start with a couple songs. And if you want to hear anything in particular, just let me know. Again, if you have any questions about what's going on, especially if you have reviewed some of our mini lesson series, which there's a lot of stuff out there for you to check out. Hold on one second while I fire up the old band. I brought a band today. They're not getting paid that much, but we're going to have fun. All right, here we go. Hopefully you can hear this. Anywho, if you're out there, say hello, say where you're from, let me know what's going on. I don't see any comments just yet, but I know they will come. Otherwise, I keep playing, so all right, all messages are visible. Hey, John, what's up, dude? See, I didn't have them visible, so now I do. Hope you're doing well, brother. And so, hey, cool. Maybe you could talk about a little bit of improvising. Do you use scale? Well, we always use scales in our improvisation. I always say that good improvisers use three key elements when it comes to improvising: time and changes. So, like, for instance, when you just heard me play on Donna Lee, there's a lot of what I consider to be time and changes, which is playing through the language building skills. Scales, chords, approaches, all of the devices that you can use melodically, and that's more on a technical level. That's one of three big components. The second component is developing motives or ideas. So if I started off with a 3 or 4 note motive on Donna Lee, I'll go back to Donna Lee here. Could be taking an idea like a 3 or 4 note motive and sort of moving it around like I was just doing. It could be as simple as, taking a phrase and shrinking it or elongating it or metronomically, augmenting it or shrinking it in terms of like a diminution type of way. That's the second out of the three things. And the third thing is contrast. You're playing slow, you play fast. You're playing high, you play low. You're playing staccato notes, you play legato notes. A lot of just a basic melodic concept on how to play. So I don't know if that answers any of those questions. And if you're just tuning in, this is sort of a live Q&A session that we're doing to sort of augment some of the things we've talked about in our mini lesson series. And if you haven't checked out those, please be sure to check out all of our mini lessons. Yeah, Marcus, thank you so much for tuning in. Here's some Night Tunisia. And I'll talk about the certain things I'll develop. I'll do timing changes and I'll just say it. And then I'll do like a motive idea. And then I'll do some contrast. And you'll sort of hear through those things. So hold on, let me fire up the band. And if you don't have this app, this is just iRealbook app. It's super great. And if I miss your comment, post it again. This is a little bit of a newer technology for me. Most of our live sessions are done on Facebook, so this interface is just a smidge different for me. So here we go. I don't know if they'll play the interlude or not, but here we go. So let's see. Okay, so they're just in the solo. I just want to make sure. So now I'm going to do first chorus, just basically timing changes, flow. Next chorus is going to be taking an idea. So, next will be simple contrast, taking a fast line and playing slow, playing high, playing low, just fundamental. Just taking simple things like that. Hold on. So I've missed a few comments here, so let me look at them. I hope that makes sense. Alexander, so okay, well, in a former video you talked about sweet notes. Sweet note is simple. It's a non-diatonic chord tone. And what I mean by that is, well, you actually can hear it a little bit in the video that I did when I did There Will Never Be Another You. So if the tune's in F for trumpet players, when you get to the A7, C sharp is not in F major. So as a chord tone, you really want to accentuate that in your playing. So watch that video a few more times. It's something that you have to live with. Another great example of that is something like this. Hold on. So take the A train. You get to the second chord. It's really outside of the key of D major for trumpet players, or C concert if you're a concert pitch person that's tuning in. Check this out. So let's take the A train, right? So that A sharp is not in the melody. So when you're playing a solo, I mean, it is in the melody. in G major, G sharp, which is E7, it's going by fast, and I understand a lot of these concepts can go by pretty quickly, but when you see something like G sharp, which is the third of E7, and you're playing a tune that's based in the key of D. Well, G sharp is not in the major key of D, so make sure you accentuate it. So, Jason, thanks so much for your comment. Call anytime. Our shop is we're available. Now, we've had some issues with our phone system, and it's been brought to our attention. We didn't really know. We were wondering why we weren't getting as many calls as before. It's like something in the phone system was literally just bouncing them right to voicemail. Hopefully, it's a little bit better. We still have to kind of tweak the settings a bit on it. So, and Darnell, thank you for watching. Of course, if you have questions, especially in regards to what we've been talking about on the mini lessons, please send them this way. So what do you do when soloing traditional jazz? What do you, like you're playing, well, for instance, if you're playing, I don't know if I really understand what your comment is, because Take the A Train is fairly traditional in my world. You know, I would say a simple thing is, like, if you hear something that requires a non-diatonic chord tone, put it in. So if you're playing, for instance, I was just playing Donna Lee, but that's the original tune is this trad jazz tune called Indiana. So Tin Roof Blues is a blues, play blues. So follow the chord changes of a blues. You know, 1-4-5 blues, that's what that is. You know, you're probably not going to play Giant Steps changes on Tin Roof Blues. You're going to utilize blues. I don't know if that makes much sense to you. If it doesn't, that's just a blues. So learn your blues progression first and foremost. 12-bar blues. It's just a blues. So be familiar and comfortable with the blues and the infinite variations of said blues. Hey, Jeremy, good to see you again. Question, how do you put together a good practice routine? It's funny that you mentioned, I think there is a mini lesson coming up in 2 mini lessons from now. We launch mini lessons Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8:30 a.m. Central Time. There's one coming up next week that talks about exactly this, so you're going to have to wait for that one. But the simple answer is you can be very disciplined in how you structure your practice, especially as an improviser, because I think a lot of times we're like, whatever, it doesn't matter. You know, I'm just going to wing it. There's no such thing as winging it. You could be super effective with your practicing if you have a goal. So I can send you a few things on that if you want. Just send me an email. Email, by the way, is info@austinCustomBrass.com. I'm going to have some tea now, pardon me. Please type in your questions while I'm drinking this tea. So I'm used to playing a deeper, darker mouthpiece for classical playing, but I play lead in a jazz band and have been looking at a good mouthpiece. Darnell, what's your mouthpiece right now? You could always try to do a couple things. One, you can keep the same rim and then go to a different cup and backbore, where you keep the same R2 and R3 angles. Those are radius points inside the mouthpiece, or what some people call alpha angle or bite or things like that. If you keep the same sort of angle on there, you can get good benefits by going to a shallower cup. Some people prefer, like myself, I play a smaller dimension commercial mouthpiece just to have a different sort of hat. And you have to practice on it. You can't just put a lead mouthpiece in and say, oh, I'm going to now play lead trumpet. You have to learn how to play it and learn how to balance the resistance on said mouthpiece. I don't know if that makes much sense or not. But again, more tea, more questions, please send them my way. And if I miss your questions, yeah, I know the Bach 3, that would not be a smart mouthpiece to play, extreme upper register, but you could go to something like In our line, we make a great commercial mouthpiece called the 3DS. That's actually a really good commercial mouthpiece without being too shallow. Anything like this, specific mouthpiece questions you want to email. Hold on, I'm going to put my tea and my horn down and type out an email address for you to check out. Hold on 1 second while I do that. Bazooty is not the same alpha angle. That's why. And it's a very aggressive cup. You probably should go to something less aggressive because the straight 3 is a fairly deep cup. So, oh, if I typed it right, it would help. So, again, if you're just tuning in, we're doing a live Noodles to talking about our lessons that I'm presenting. Darnell, email, that's my assistant Josh's direct email. He's amazing when it comes to talking about the mouthpieces. You can also call us. Let me put the number in. If you don't know the number, hold on 1 second. That's our telephone number. Call us. Obviously, I won't answer it right now, but call us. Ideally, you want to be able to maybe try a few in a certain, playing situation in your band, things like that. That being said, I'll show you something. It's not just about mouthpiece, because this is my FX series mouthpiece. I don't know if you could see that. I'll put it like more in the middle. See how deep that is? That's deeper than a deep cup flugel mouthpiece. If I take my normal mouthpiece out, which is about a 2C, by the way. It's a dark mouthpiece, of course, but I mean, that's an A above high C, and it's played on this gigantic mouthpiece. See how deep that is? A lot of it it's about the concepts you use while approaching playing the instrument. Hate to tell you that. No mouthpiece has ever missed a note by itself. That's one of my favorite lines one of my friends who makes mouthpieces say. But please keep those questions coming. If I've missed them, put them back. I'm going to look a little bit now and just see again what's going on. If I missed any questions, I think I'm good at the moment. But if you have questions about our mini lessons, please post them here. That would be really great. We'll try to do maybe one of these mini lesson sort of wrap-ups per week, like a live question and answer. I don't know exactly the time. Thursday afternoons actually work pretty well for me. But I don't talk about other brands of mouthpieces. Sorry, man. It's like you walking into a BMW dealership and you say, hey, how's that Mercedes? So I'm happy to talk about the mouthpieces that we make. I could definitely talk about hanging with Bob Finley. That's a great thing. Bob was all about Caruso, all about structuring Caruso and laying things out in a very pragmatic way. And smart Caruso. I think a lot of people who approach the Caruso method approach it like with a more muscle thing. And for me, it was about just being simple about, keeping my air consistent. And I learned a lot about, and I have a mini lesson on this about forward pressure, where I talk about the more aggressive, I get with playing. Yeah, I know the mouthpiece, Darnell, but email the shop and we can help you there. So, but instead of using mouthpiece pressure where it's coming this way, where you're constantly like gearing up, you want to think about mouthpiece pressure as, yes, we all use pressure, but going in to the horn. So I'm squeezing more, something in a V cup. I don't have anything really here in the V cups. So, but I like the Miles cup that we make. It's really actually quite nice. I can get it. Hold on. Riveting. So this is take off of Miles. Let's see if we get the light. Turn down the lights for a second so you can see the cup. Sorry, it's a little bit. There we go. I don't know if you can see that. So this is a V cup, and it's also a shorter shank. I'm going to turn the light back on because I like a little bit more light here. And the V cup. The cool thing about a V cup, it has great efficiency without having it to be too bright. You can see it's like very easy for me to get around. And I think the V cup, if you know how to approach your Airstream, Clark's mouthpiece is also really great in terms of V cup, and that's the mouthpiece I primarily play. Is the TA1, which was based off Clark Terry's mouthpiece. I actually don't have it in here today, but I've been messing around trying to play like my MV3CS, which is a little bit bigger. It forces me to be less trumpet. Beep Durple. No, sorry. Deep Purple, I know. But, and also the band. Didn't they do Smoke on the Water? But I actually played with that drummer. What was the drummer's name? Oh my gosh. I can't remember him, but we played in Europe a few years ago. But anywho, that's my H3S. But that's a fun mouthpiece. And I should play it a little bit more. But when you make mouthpieces, you have tons of different things around. So again, if you're just tuning in, thanks for tuning in. This is a live Noodle session that we normally do on Facebook, where we're also doing a question answer, talking about certain things about the mini lesson series that are exclusive here on YouTube. And if you have questions about some of those lessons that you've watched in the past. And hey, brother, what's happening, man? So that's a good question. Oh, I'm getting a call right now.
0826.
Let me put my do not disturb on. Does anybody want to answer a shop call? So hold on. Sorry. And if you just called the shop, I'm sorry, because I just put my do not disturb on. So Gianni, my brother, and I hope the guys sipped out your case. We finally got our guard order in while I was in LA last week. They are such great bags. But anywho, so he's saying, how do you learn more contemporary language? I think a big thing is to transcribe. So for instance, one of my favorite lines that I've learned is, do you know I know you know, Gianni, but there's a great album, Tom Harrell and John McNeil, Look to the Sky, but they do Chasing the Bird, which is a rhythm changes in F concert. And Tom plays, like when they start trading, some really nice fourth and second language. So let's see. It's been a long time since I played it, even though I use it all the time. Something like that. So let me do it a little slow. I actually can't do it slow because I don't think about it anymore. But one of the things that when I first heard that album, I couldn't get my head around what that sound was. I listened to that album when I was like in high school, early college, I guess. And so I took my cassette recorder and just recorded that one line off a record. Yes, those are those big spinny things. And listened to that line over and over. And then eventually one of my friends showed me a trick on how I could slow the record down. And I got it to the point where I could or whatever it is. So I mean, there's a good book on building your technique in fourths. I can't remember who wrote it, but there's a sax player, I think, that wrote it. And so you could do some fundamental exercises on that, or you could do fundamental exercises on pentatonic scales, which lend themselves also to be nice with. I'm going to change this mouthpiece. That rim's a little aggressive for me. But I'm going to, it's taking that sort of shape and sound and implementing in my playing. So say I'm doing a blues, and I'll just demonstrate on the blues. Hold on. Let's see. If I type in blues, it probably would help, wouldn't it? Again, if you have questions about what's going on. All right, here we go. So just a blues in B flat. Let's make it as vanilla as possible. I think a lot of times we try to force this language out, and you have to be a little bit more. Initially, you have to be. funny though. I don't ever practice like this anymore. I don't want this to be too contrived, and that sounds really contrived to me. But you have to first force the information out. It's kind of like when you transcribe a solo and you're trying to learn the solo, which actually is another topic of a mini lesson for, I think it's 4 or 5 mini lessons coming. Talks about trying to take emulative things in transcribed solos. But maybe you can work on lines. Like one of the lines I love, I just played it, is going up a diminished chord in fourths. So check this out. I transcribed that off of a John Swana solo, and he did something a little bit different. So taking that and then sort of, okay, I'm going to do that in alt keys, and it's actually easy in a diminished because you don't have as many choices. So you just work on it, do it forwards, backwards. Maybe you add some half steps in between to sort of get you to sound less cliched, for instance. But how do you solo over chord changes? There's a few lessons already on that. So I just close my eyes and hope it works. So practice. Kenneth Jenkins, thank you for your answer. I mean, your question, but really it's practice. Transcribing, learning, it's language building. You don't roll out of the crib and just start saying, hey, Mom, go grab me some milk because I'm thirsty. You're drooling and eventually, Mama, and you say Mama, and they give you the bottle and everything's cool. It's a lot more elaborate than just roll out of bed and learn it. But, I think in terms of jazz practice, it's a little bit challenging, but you can put things in sort of line. The time it changes, the mode of development, and the contrast concept I had at the beginning of this session. After this is done, by the way, there'll be an archive of this so you can watch it and catch up if you hadn't seen the first, we're at 27 minutes now. So you can see a little bit what we were talking about. But suggested more modern trumpet players to listen to. Yeah, there's tons. Alex Sepaigan, Ryan Kaiser, Avishai Cohen, Ambrose Akamusere. I mean, there's tons of Jason Palmer. There's a Shane Ensley, Peter Evans. I could keep naming names like until I get blue. So, but thanks, Gianni. Hope you're doing well, and thank you for your support, man. Couldn't do it without you, brother. I owe you a pint at IHEG. But there's a ton of Marquise, of course. Yeah, he's amazing. So, but that's the thing. You could just keep naming players right after another. Tons of great players. The big thing with any of these players is to listen to them, check them out, go see them live. Sean Jones live is the best experience that you probably could ever have. Also, maybe one of the most humbling because not many people play better trumpet than Sean. And you can go and hang and then get inspired to play. Then you have to transcribe. I mean, a lot of this stuff about jazz and improvised music is about transcription, like really getting stuff under your fingers, hearing the sound, being able to, you could keep naming names, but of course, it's not necessarily a naming thing, pick your guys you like too. Of course, Victor plays great. I know. Yeah. You must be living in Chicago. That's all I could say. Cause you just named 2 Chicago trumpet players. So, let me have some more of my tea. But yeah, you gotta know what's going on. So again, if you're just tuning in, this is our little bit of YouTube Live Noodles. Thanks so much, and thank you all for your fantastic support of my shop, Austin Custom Brass. We couldn't do it without you. We just hired a trombone specialist. We have some videos on trombones up. Hey, if you see Sean, tell him I said yo. So I miss him from when he was at Berkeley and I was living in Boston, man. Whoa, scary, hearing that guy play. But and also maybe the nicest guys around. So wait, isn't he in St. Louis? So you must be in St. Louis, which means you should come to my shop. Hopefully, the shop isn't too far away from you. I think I'll be in St. Louis sometime. So yeah, I've seen the Canadian Brass many times when I was a kid, especially. Both Caleb and Chris are amazing trumpet players for sure. Ridiculous trumpet players and great cats as well. So, anywho, back to like question and answers. Other than, hey, do you know this guy, or do you? Yeah. So you're gonna go see Sean, and that's not too far. You should still come to the shop. We're in Kansas City. So, It's fun, as you can see behind me. This is just one room. But more questions and answers, hopefully, about our live Noodles, about our mini lessons. And if you want to hear a song, just let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to play a song anyways. While you guys are asking questions, I'm going to play a song. I've been working on this song recently. Hold on. Yeah, this one. I thought I knew this, but I don't know it as well as I should, so. If you have a song suggestion, let me hear them. That was if I should lose you. If I could talk, it would be even better. And I'm not going to play the lick in all 12 keys. Although on my last CD from like 100 years ago, I did a song called The Lick. No, that's great that you're tuning in, man. If you have questions, start them now. And if I've already potentially answered them, I'll just let you know. And again, anybody who's tuning in, thanks so much. We have new gear here, video gear. So I'm just trying some of this new gear. Hopefully you can hear me okay. It's funny. It's like, I know when Sunny Gets Blue, it's just not one of my favorite songs to play. But if you have another ballad suggestion, I would love to play it. But I do love Kurt Rosenwinkel's version of that. That's pretty great. So Four Brothers, I don't know if there's a play along, but I can definitely play that. I don't know if I could play the bridge. It's been a while since I have. Oh yeah, it is cool. It's normally an A flat for us. Yep, and it is. All right, let's see. Good. Let's see. I need to relearn it, but I know the song. Got another call to the shop. So it seems to be interrupting us. I apologize. We're busy. What can I say? Okay, I got to answer this question. I'll go back to Four Brothers. Marcus, what mouthpiece to play with more power in the upper register? Check out this one. I'll do this again. I don't know if you can see it from there. This is the deepest cup I make on a trumpet. You don't need a shallow mouthpiece to play in the high register. And yes, in a sentimental mood, I can. I do a demo. It's one of my songs I demo on because of the intonation tendencies. are really good on that song to really kind of see if a horn plays in tune or not. Let's see. Okay. And a much better request than the lick. Oh man, I'm getting all these calls for some reason, and I have my phone set on Do Not Disturb. Let me try it again. Let me do this. It's great that we have phone calls, but not when they... Cool. Anywho, pardon me. Operating the shop sometimes gets in the way. So, but if you have more questions about mini lessons, you have more questions about what the shop is doing, let me know. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, you probably have if you're watching this video. And thank you so much for your great support of the shop. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have mini lesson suggestions for the future, especially, I'm already about 4 lessons ahead in terms of, so play bassy. That depends on, I'm not going to play a big band chart. Sorry, man. But question, what do you think about practicing a large bug? You can't practice 8 hours straight. This is a physical instrument. You need to structure your practice in a time that makes sense. I used to practice when I was younger, before I had my shop, when I was a pro and I wasn't gigging, maybe 10 to 11 hours a day. So it is possible, but it's also about, structuring your playing during the course of the day to make your chops rest. Like you see, it's funny. I get red here. And the reason I get red, in case you're like, oh, you use too much pressure. That's not true. We all do use pressure, but I actually play an acrylic mouthpiece most of the time because the silver, actually, I have a reaction to silver plate. So I actually have a chemical reaction. But anyways, if I play an acrylic mouthpiece, it's much better. Practice write out your practice schedule. There's a video I just did on our mini lessons about no time to practice, but be sure to sit down and take like a couple hours even with a cup of coffee or whatever, and just write out your daily practice for the week or 2 weeks and your goals. That really helps. So what's a little hard without a real band? But I have a video on YouTube of me playing it. So, but let me have some more tea. I hope that makes sense to your question. But if you, I think it's, especially if you play another instrument outside of the trumpet as well, because you don't need to practice the trumpet necessarily 8 hours a day, but playing music 8 hours a day is great. How are your piano chops? How are your bass chops? How are, How are your compositional chops? How are your teaching chops? All these things affect how you are as a musician, even though you might not think so. The better writer you are, the better teacher you are, the better musician I think you are as well. I play Arbans every day. So I play Arbans every single day. Pages 20 to 33. That starts with... From that all the way through. Every exercise for... Hopefully I sound okay on Arbans. I've been playing it for a lot of time, but I feel like those are great exercises. If you could play... just picking up your horn and going, that's daily technique that you need to be a consistent player. And it's one of those things that you should do every day. So don't feel like you have to move on from Arban. And you don't have to play the back of the Arban book, because that's fine. I mean, when I was 16 years old, I was all into playing, Carnival of Venice and Bellini's Norma as well. But I think much more important for me as a professional player these days is having good, solid technique, good time, good rhythm. And that's all stuff you can find in the beginning of the Arban book. So... Tuku, tuku, tu, tiki, tiki, ti. There's your lesson on multiple tonguing. Think about how many times you've done your single tonguing. If you just decided one morning, okay, I'm going to do 15 minutes of just the ki syllable. And I like ki, if it says K-U in the Arban book, but you know that that's the French would actually pronounce that as Q, not Q. So if you think about where your tongue syllable is, you try to have the smallest surface possible to vibrate. Ki, 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 tiki, 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 ti. So some preliminary exercises on multiple tonguing that I do is I just practice T's, T, 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 ki, 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 ki. I'll do that for you right now. And I over accentuate the ki syllable, almost like you're going to da, but do to ki. I can't tell you the last time I actually had to double tongue, by the way. It's been a long time. And those are all K syllables. One year I worked at Disney in the All-American College Band, and all I did when I was doing those marches was practice everything with a K syllable. Literally. I haven't done it in a while, but I would do Mickey Mouse March when we were in our parades, and I would just play K all the time. Everything. So by the end of the summer, I could rip through Aratunian, because I had to actually play Aratunian with a concert band. So it was like one of those things, you just have to build it. And that's drill and repetition over and over. You have to do it. It's kind of like where I've been with my weight. I was really, really high weight. Now I'm less now, but I still have a long ways to go. And it's about getting to the gym every day, or getting on my treadmill, which I have a treadmill here at the shop, which I use, or getting at the treadmill at home. You just have to do it. You can't just expect it to happen magically. Hope that helped. Again, if you're tuning in, we're doing a live Noodles. What were some exercises Clark Terry gave you? Clark never really gave me any improvisation exercises other than that concept of sweet notes, which you haven't watched. If you haven't watched, I should say, you haven't watched, please check out on YouTube the mini lesson on sweet notes. It's really good. So, and again, thank you all for coming and spending a few moments hanging out here. It's a way of our shop, Austin Custom Brass, to give back to you all a little bit for all your great support you bring to our shop. But in terms of tips that CT gave me, other than he taught me how to doodle tongue, and maybe I'll do a video on doodle tonguing. It's hard to describe it really, what I did. But other than that, it was just watching him work as a professional, watching his consistency, watching his whole routine, how he got ready for the gig, how he prepared himself, how he presented himself, how he entertained. I mean, a lot of the things I see with a lot of modern musicians is that we're great players, but we're not really great entertainers. And we have to be, first and foremost, yes, we have to be a very fine technician on our instrument, but you have to be a great entertainer. You need people when they come to your concert to leave with a smile. So, no, this is why we're here. I like that question though. How's my day going? Oh, my day's always going great. I love what I do. And maybe the secret of life is finding out what you love doing. And yes, accounting and payroll and taxes and things like that maybe aren't my favorite thing to do, but I love working with customers. I love, hopefully encouraging people to continue the art of, practicing, because we're still practicing. That's the best part. I'm 40 something years old, and I love to practice. Not just like to practice. You have to love to practice, especially if you have any aspirations to be a musician, for the rest of your life. Even if you're a hobbyist, you have to love getting in the practice room. You have to love opening the Arbenz book and tackling those things. There are no easy solutions to that. Just like I'm really loving working out again. And it's like one of those things, because I feel like I'm a very young, guy getting back into fitness. And I need it because I am not fit, but but that's the thing. I love it. So, okay. But that was a great question. Thank you. How critical do you think doodle tonguing is for a gigging trumpet improviser? Not as much anymore, but it does help when you're playing fast. So, for example, do you recommend trying to practice jazz lines while incorporating doodle tonguing? First, I would incorporate practicing just basic technique when you're doodle tonguing. So like even just on. Hear that was all doodle tonguing, and it's just it's not double tonguing. It's not that. It's much lighter. So here's single tonguing. Here's double tonguing. You can hear there's a little bit of a difference in the sound. Hopefully, I don't know if this mic is good enough to hear that. And here's doodle tonguing. When you're playing fast lines, it really does help. But if you do it incorrectly, it could sound a little dated, like you're playing from a different era. I don't know if that makes sense. One of the greatest things you could do, especially if you're into jazz trumpet players, is listen to how they articulate, because how they articulate often gives them more of a characteristic of their playing than their sound even. Like if you listen to Lee Morgan, he tongues so differently than Clifford Brown, who he idolized Clifford, who tongues differently than Fats Navarro, because Clifford idolized Fats Navarro, who idolized Dizzy, who tongues differently than Roy Eldridge, who idolized Roy. You see where that's going, So let's see. The Daoud, right, is a. It's been a while since I played it. Things like that, right? The thing that you want to do is Clifford tongue very, very. Okay, so that is a different album. Yeah, Zoot Sims sounds great on that. And I'd have to get a little bit more familiar with that because I haven't heard that actually that as much as I should. But the thing about Clifford is he was a very aggressive articulator. The thing that you want to do is maybe you want to like emulate that. I mean, ideally, if you're learning West End blues, you want to tongue like Pop's tongue, things like that. But eventually, you want to develop your own concept on how you want to sound your articulate. If you don't articulate in a faster bebop solo, like say, hold on, I'll play something. If you don't, so let's see where we were. Let's go to my recent songs. Again, if you have questions, post them here. Last viewed. All right, so let's do 4. And we'll play it a little fast so you can hear. And what I'll start out doing is just not tonguing. And you could hear, like, it will sound okay. I got to turn that up, sorry. It sounds a little too unclear, but if I just add a little articulation. If I mean, there are people that double tongue. It sounds strange to me. I can't do it. It sounds weird. But articulation is kind of like a fingerprint. You really want to think about what exactly you want to convey. Maybe it's really percussive. Maybe it's really legato. Maybe it's like, oh, I want to sound a little bit more like Chet, where he's very flowing. Or maybe I want to sound like Clifford, where he's very percussive. These are all things that you get to choose as an improvising musician, which I think is awesome. Versus like, okay, you're going to play the Haydn. Well, yeah, you could play the Haydn like, okay, there's Winton's version, there's, Al Hurt's version, there's, Tom Stevens, which is my favorite version. There's a couple Håkon versions out there. There's a lot of versions of the Haydn, but eventually you still kind of have to figure out what your concept is. So can you always tell if someone is double tonguing on them? I think double tonguing is pretty obvious. Like there's this amazing video of Winton playing Cherokee where he's double tonguing. It's on Live at the House of Tribes. If you type that in, and he sounds absolutely ridiculous, But for me, it sounds uncomfortable. But doodle tongue is a little bit less clear. But if you know a trombonist that plays fast, they are definitely doodle tonguing because you have to tongue on the trombone. So how do you play with your tongue out? You stick your tongue out and play. So that'll be $100. Thank you very much. So anyways, that's kind of a wrap for today's mini lesson series. If you have a chance, send us an email, info@AustinCustomBrass, with future suggestions. Post them here. Check out there's a new one dropping tomorrow, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8:30 Central Time. You will be able to check out these sessions. Again, thank you so much for your awesome support of our shop. We couldn't do it without you. If you ever need anything, reach out to us at info@AustinCustomBrass.com, 781-944-6247. All right. Thanks so much. You guys have a great night. Cheers.